Hey there, this is Katherine. I'm sharing the latest Make Yourself at Home kit from Hero Arts. This is available at joann.com. It's only available online. It's not in the Joann store. But I'm going to do a quick little unpackaging so you can see what you get in this kit. I'm going to make several cards on camera as well as the backgrounds for them. And then I also have some additional ideas to show you of things that I made. All right, so let me show you what you get. You're going to get these half sheets of cardstock, beautiful heavyweight cardstock. The colors are gorgeous. And then there's also some vellum, so you can quickly turn those into card bases. You can cut them in half like I'm going to do. You get a brush as well. There is stencil paste, which is exciting. And of course, you're going to get a stencil. This is a Waves stencil. And then there is this adorable stamp set and die set that coordinate. Look at that cute octopus. He's darling. So I can't wait to start using this. And then there's also, wow, 4 reactive inks, these ink cubes. I love the reactive ink. I've got a couple of videos featuring the reactive inks. They're a lot of fun. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I am going to pull out a piece of the vellum. I'm kind of doing a little experiment. I haven't worked with vellum in a while. I have some. I used to use it a lot, but I haven't used it in a while. So I'm going to stamp some of the ink onto an ink block, and I want to do some stenciling. I want to see what happens to the paper. I think it's going to probably crinkle up some because it is wet and the vellum is very thin, but I want to see what I get out of it. So let's give it a try. I'm going to mix in with my little spatula a little bit of that blue Hawaii ink. I think that's my, I don't know, I don't know which color is my favorite. That blue Hawaii is really gorgeous, but it's kind of hard to choose. So I'm going to stencil that in there. I'm going to come back again with another little bit of stencil paste. And I'm going to add that lighter blue in there. And then I'm just going to kind of mix it together for my background. And let's see what happens. All right. And it spreads beautifully. I have not used this before. But you definitely, if you've never worked with stencils and stencil paste, you definitely want to get this in water. It will dry really, really stiff and hard and be hard to get off of things. So just put it in some warm water with soap and it will come off. And I'm just kind of laying that down. I'm going to have to put that aside and let it dry. It'll take a little bit. And while I have all my stuff out, I'm going to go back and do some more stenciling. So I've cleaned my stencil from the previous time, and now I'm going to come back onto this beautiful blue cardstock, and I'm just going to stencil a little bit of the paste on there. And I will let that dry as well. I love this, this stencil. It's a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it all turns out, especially with that vellum. All right, I'm going to do one with the orange as well. I'm going to keep this just the white, and I will layer this onto my cardstock. And I'll probably have to trim it down, but I'm keeping this one a little bit more of a square, a little more uniform. And then I've got one more that I'm going to work on. I'm going to use that green. I had some of these cut apart. I cut some of the cardstock apart, I should say. And so I'm going to add a little bit to a mat, found my craft mat, and a little bit of that light blue, and then I'll bring in a little bit of the darker blue. And I'm going to just blend those together. I'm keeping it kind of rough because I want it to show up a little bit and not having a really smooth blend on that, trying to keep the colors a little bit separated. And then I'm just going to get the rest of that off my craft mat. And let's see how it turns out. It's so pretty. I love the colors in this kit. Okay, all right. So I've let the vellum dry. You can see it definitely crinkled up, but that is not a problem for me. I actually love the way that it turned out. So I'm going to lay it under a block a little bit. Here are the other ones after they dried. You can kind of see the different patterns and that shading. And then now I'm going to work on watercoloring. I have stamped on a piece of watercolor cardstock, and I use my Gina K Amalgam ink, Obsidian, that I use all the time. And I'm just going to do a really quick watercolor on here. I've sped it up. It took probably 7 minutes or so, I'd say, to do all of this coloring on this page. and then I'm going to do another one as well. And so I'm just kind of playing around with it. That's what I love about watercoloring. It's very forgiving. If you go out of the line, it's okay. It dries really cool, I think, with some nice interest to it. So I'm just using my little water pen that I have. I have a couple of these of different sizes. This one's a pretty fine tip. And I'm just going to go around and watercolor all of these. And I'm not the best watercolorer, I don't think, but I've learned a lot over the years about having too much water. That's why I've got that little piece of smaller watercolor cardstock so it just doesn't pool everywhere. You can use a regular watercolor brush too, and sometimes I will let it dry between colors so it doesn't run all over the place. Obviously, when I'm just kind of messing around, I might be a little more careful, but I like the way that they kind of bleed together sometimes, and it's just fun and relaxing to do it, and it makes a really fun look for your card. Definitely different than coloring with markers or colored pencils, just a lot more organic, which I enjoy. Okay, so I'm going to finish up these little starfish. I don't know which one is my favorite one. Of the little creatures. I'm not sure which one I would choose. Okay, so I'm going to let those watercolors dry. I'm going to come back on this dried stenciled piece of cardstock, and I'm going to just use a couple of brushes and blend some of that color on there to soften up a little bit of that white, and you'll be able to see the blue, that darker blue Hawaii a good bit better on here. But it just kind of takes a little bit of the edge off of that white on here. And I wanted to see how it turned out. I'm pretty pleased. I think it looks really neat on over that stencil paste. Okay, and then I'm going to come back and add a little bit more of the pool party. And you can see the difference. It doesn't look like much at first, but then when you see the white at the bottom, you can see that it definitely changes the tone of your stencil paste. Just a fun way to soften up that color and blend it all together. Okay, all right, so that's it for that background. And then I'm going to do, I think at least one more background, two more backgrounds here. I'm just blending this on watercolor cardstock. So I did pull in some watercolor cardstock, and then I'm going to use some Bristol smooth cardstock as well. And I'm just doing a kind of rough blend on here, not worrying about it too much to be super, super smooth, because I'm going to add a little bit of water on top to show you the reactive part of it. Okay, so I've got my little spray bottle. This is my distress sprayer, and you can get big drops or little drops, and I love, you can see it's moving, and I love the way that it took that ink off of the paper. So I'll let that one dry, and then I've got one more that I have already gone ahead and blended similarly to what I just did, but now I'm going to stamp some of my coral. I've got the creamsicle at the top, and then I'm going to add a little bit of that green fizz, I think it's key lime fizz, at the bottom, just to add a little something to it. And then I'll stamp one more time. I am going to add a little bit more to it, and then I'm going to cut this paper out into an oval. Sorry, I had to think of the shape. I thought at one point maybe a square that I was going to do it, but then I did decide on the oval. So I'm going to add a little school of fish that come in here with the blue Hawaii. And I think this ink stamps really well as well, in addition to just being the reactive. I felt I got a good impression stamping as well in that color. I think the blue Hawaii is my favorite. I've made the decision. That's my favorite blue right now, is the blue Hawaii. And I'm going to add this cute little sentiment, Best Fishes. Super cute. And you can see there's that oval that I decided I'm going to bring in and use. So I'm just kind of positioning where I want it to go once I cut out my shape. Okay, I'm trying to decide which color I wanted to use. I finally settled on black ink, the Gina K black ink. And I will stamp that twice with my stamp positioner. This is a Stamparatus from Stampin' Up. I get a lot of questions about the stamping platforms that I use. That's the one I'm using in this video. All right, so I've got this cut out, and I have also, my watercolor pieces have dried, so I have die cut some of them, and I'm going to add them to this little panel. And I didn't pop, on this one I did not pop it up. I kept this one layer. And I'm just going to glue that to the bottom of that coral. And then I will come back here. I'm going to pop up this part so I don't have too much dimension, but I've got some little scraps of foam pieces, these Stampin' Up! Dimensionals that I use a lot. I use every inch of that paper because I love them. So I go all the way to the edge, never throw it away, and I use every little scrap. It's my favorite. Okay, so I'm going to layer this onto the green cardstock, and then I am going to add this to a piece of the vellum. I had some of the vellum left over. I've got to put it onto the orange so I can see it. I can't see where the edges are. I'm going to layer that on there, and that's helping me see where it needs to go. And then I will layer this onto the orange card base. Okay, so cute. All right. All right, moving on. So here is the vellum piece that I cut from that same oval. And it's, like I say, it's a little crinkly, but I feel like that kind of adds some interest to the card since we've got the waves and all. And so I'm going to add, go ahead and add my octopus on the front because I want to try and layer in some of the foam on the back so you just don't see a lot of adhesive. And then that little banner that I've made, Need a Hand, I'm Here for You, that will help cover any of the adhesive that you might see through the card. But you can see it's cute and popped up. I'll add a little bit of those same foam dimensionals to this banner, and that will be it for this card. I love the way that the vellum turned out. I think it was kind of neat and a little bit different, a little bit of a surprise. Okay, all right, there we go. Next card. I had a basic frame in my craft stash. I cut that from the orange and popped it. I'm going to pop it up onto the card with some foam tape. You could make this into a shaker card very easily. I decided not to because that stencil has some ridges, and I just didn't think I would get a very good shake because it is bumpy. And so if you wanted to make a shaker with a frame, you could just stencil that waves background and then add your pieces and your vellum, your acetate on the top and make a fun shaker. So I've got some more of these little friends that I have colored and cut out, and I've got the sentiment just floating by to say hello that I popped up as well. And I love the colors. I love the orange in this kit. It's so pretty. You can see it's got some fun dimension to it. So there we go. All right, so those are the three that I'm going to share that I made on camera. And I love all these stenciled backgrounds and using the paste. That was a lot of fun. And you can see there's the best fishes. And then I'm going to show you a few that I made off camera as well for additional ideas. There is that beautiful background, and I added several of the pieces from it, from the grass. I love the kind of seagrass at the bottom, and that seahorse. He might be my favorite, but the jellyfish are kind of cool too. Here's that one that I stenciled first in white, and then I went back and colored with the blending brush and the inks. And then also I've got this one. That was the background I created. I just cut it with a square and layered it up, added a few sequins just floating by to say hello. So I love the way that one turned out. And then this last one, I didn't show any of it on camera. I created that background by just swatching the ink cube on there, just swiping it across and then coming back with a little bit of brush, water, and mixing it together. And then I also sprayed it with that water bottle. And then the top is covered with some gold embossed friends. So that is how that card came together. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm loving these kits, these monthly kits from Hero Arts that they are selling at joann.com. I've got another video on them as well. I made about, I think, 4 or 5 cards on that one. So be sure and check that one out. I'll link in the description. And let me know if you have a favorite of these cards. I appreciate you so much watching. I hope that you will subscribe. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much.